Welcome to the channel, viewers. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia, fresh in from stand-up paddleboarding and cycling. Big morning. Thank you for coming by. I was just thinking back to some of the dramas that I've had, and I'm looking at it in the relationship sense, and I'm starting to realize that it all comes down to one simple thing. Outside interference. It's never been something that has been based on my personal performance, because I make sure that I'm attentive, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, if necessary. And I'm not a judgmental person, but when these people, these women, start breaking down, and they do, there's a part inside me that will tolerate it to an extent. But if it's interference, outside interference, you have to say to yourself, I'm dealing with powers, covert powers, spies, flying monkeys, gremlins, minions, whatever you want to call them. Interferers is basically what they are, without all the fancy terms. They're just interferers, unhappy people that feel like they're being left behind. When it comes down to it, you can't negotiate. They're not going to negotiate. The person that you're with is not going to want you near them to embarrass them, like the interferers. The interferers can usually be someone that's close to the person that you're with, so it's going to be difficult for them to have a confrontation. That puts you in a position where you're probably going to let that person down eventually, because you're not going to be able to put up with the rubbish and the nonsense, the triangulation and the strangulation, which justifies that the interferer was right. It's a no-win situation, guys. It's a no-win situation. The interferer is causing all the trouble. The interferer is the problem. But when you die in the bum, when you go, I've had enough of this rubbish, you're not doing anything about it, for the person that you were with that was supposed to have your back, the interferer is the answer. So you were with somebody that didn't know how to function in a relationship. That's what you were with. They didn't know how to have privacy. They were probably backbiting, slandering you, complaining about you behind your back. They're doing that to everybody else. You'll notice that the people that are causing the trouble are little whingers and whiners about the people that are closest to them. And it's just a toxic web. And if you get caught in it, if you start to stick to the web and you see, oh, hang on a sec, there's some poison here, you've got to detach. This is the key in simple layman's terms. You detach according to the behaviour. Now, they might not be the one causing the trouble. They might be in a triangulated situation where you're being vandalised and assassinated emotionally and characteristically by these fools who can't manage themselves. They've got self-hatred, shame, guilt. They can be addicts, drunks, or they've just got a chip on their shoulder because they can't get a relationship themselves, and they don't want to be alone on their own, so they want their friends to be alone, so they interfere and wreck everything. If the person that you're with isn't mature enough to have the value to realise that they've got something that's valuable, right? Because they might not consider you valuable. So your value, separate to yourself, right, is only worth what the other person perceives it to be. If the other person doesn't perceive or hang on to how valuable you are, then you've got to protect your value from the people that are trying to devalue you. So your attachment has to work relative to the value that these people are putting into the relationship, which is revealed by the extent of their behaviour. Not their words, their behaviour. Because actions speak louder than words. The day I broke up with my last girlfriend, I rang her the first time and she said for some strange reason I'd gone along with this dysfunction and I'd stepped out of the way of a family event. And she goes, "Oh, thank you, I love you." And I thought, you love me because I've accommodated the dysfunction, right? The people behind the scenes, the triangulators, the vandalisers, they would have been stoked because they wouldn't have had to been put in a situation of discomfort where it was uncomfortable for them. But that didn't help her in my eyes relative to how I now perceived her. The way I saw her after that was, this woman just can't resolve anything. Because trying to keep everybody happy isn't resolved. Right? Hitler had people running around him trying to keep him happy, thinking they were trying to keep him happy. But that didn't change who Hitler was and what he was going to do. You've got these little golden children, adults, who have these enmeshed parents, enabling, grooming parents, running around them, and it ain't making anything better, it's just enabling the dysfunction. They're just enabling the bad behaviour of these people. That's all they're doing. And that doesn't help anyone. But it gives these people a sense of acceptance, a sense of inclusion, a sense of family, even though it's as dysfunctional as you can get and harmful. And you'll come along and you'll put in a check, like you'll just check them on some things, try and, this ain't right, that ain't right, this ain't helping anybody, etc. And they'll look at you like you're stupid, and they'll treat you like you're an enemy. It's really, really bad. It's really, really unhealthy. But it is happening all over the place. So as soon as there's a problem and the problem's coming from their side of the fence and you're standing there going, "Oh no, not this again. Oh no, here we go again, another interferer, another dysfunctional interferer," you ain't going to be able to stop it, because it's their children, it's their DNA, it's their family. They ain't gonna do anything about it. They're just going to let it grow until you wear out. This is what I say, they'll let it go until you wear out. They won't stop until you wear out. Then, at the end of it, when you've broken and said, "Look, I just can't navigate this anymore," they blame you. They're going to blame you. And then you go, "Well, who was I with? Like, what was that all about?" The problem with it is they're enmeshed with the person that's causing the trouble. And it's predictable. They're going to end up with that person, because toxic people stay with toxic people. And the people that aren't toxic remove themselves from the situation and leave them to it. So if you end up with a toxic person, and that's measured by their behaviour towards a relationship, then you need to detach according to your sense of the toxicity. They're not going to grow, they're not going to change, you're going to get the blame. That's the mentality of these people. You'll hear them backbiting and slandering and gossiping and putting the knife into their own family members. That means it's only a matter of time before your number's up. They're going to side with the other toxic family members that are, wrecking everything around them. They're going to pull down everything that's half decent around them and all the rest of it. And it's not about you, it's about them. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with their mentality, how they perceive life, what their values are, what their fantasy is in their mind, what their attachments and enmeshments are to family members, and what their value is towards a relationship. If they haven't got the value towards a relationship, that'll be reflected through their behavior in the relationship. If you've attached and now you're seeing a manifestation and change in this person's behavior towards the negative, then you step back, you start to detach, you stay focused and you start to detach. You don't let the intimacy and other stuff blind you or mislead you. You start to detach, you start to get your mind back, you start to see and say to yourself, this person's deteriorating, they're not maintaining themselves in the relationship. And you begin to rehab yourself, you'll get help, you'll talk to friends, you'll make sure you're not being biased, you'll keep performing well. And then when they finally drive you to the point where you've had enough, you're able to walk away without the shock of the breakup being instant. You knew it was coming, you measured it by their behavior, they lost their value, they demonstrated that in how they were treating the relationship, and you can walk away with a good start to recovering and restoring yourself to how you were before they came along.